All right. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? How is it going? I am Is There No One Else? And the video I'm bringing you today, we are going to go through a theory-crafted video, build video, for the Magicka Templar for the Dragonhold DLC. Now, if you guys have not seen my theory-crafted series, these are, as a lot of you guys know, builds come out on PC before they come out on Xbox. And so I can only play one build at a time, and typically how I go through a build is I'll play it for a week, and then I make some edits, and then I post the finalized build when I'm very confident in what it can do for you guys. However, there's so many classes, DLCs come out really quickly. Sometimes I don't always get to a finalized build for you guys, and so I thought it would be, I think this series is fun not only for me, but for the community to look at it and maybe chime in on their ideas for how to improve a build. And so this is a series not only to just like post an idea out there to get you guys thinking about your own builds. Maybe I'm gonna post something that you haven't really thought about, or you guys can chip in and say, hey, this is a good idea, but have you thought about running this 5-piece instead? So this is a lot more. This isn't me just telling you, hey, guys, this is what works for me. This is like, hey guys, I have an idea, I've gotten this far, what do you think? And then you guys provide, your feedback and, kind of tell me like, hey, I don't think that's going to work. Maybe you want to try this instead, or, that sounds awesome. I'm going to try it out tomorrow. Up to you guys. So with that being said, this is going to be a Magplar PvP build. Yeah, let's just dive into it. So the first set we're going to use, guys, we're going to utilize Marauder's Haste with this build. Now, Marauder's Haste is a new gear set to Dragonhold. It is as follows: Magicka Recovery, Maximum Magicka Recovery, and when you cast a damage shield ability, increase your movement speed by 20% for 9 seconds. Now, I think for quite a few people, they are going to kind of skim by this because, it's not giving you a ton of damage. If it's not giving damage or high resistances, a lot of people don't want it. But movement speed is very nice. And I think we can utilize it with this build. So we're going to backbar Marauder's Haste. And so we're going to use Jewelry with the Sword and Board, all arcane. And we're using a damage shield in our backbar to get the 20% movement speed. Movement speed in PvP is very valuable. It stops you from getting bogged down and beaten up. It allows you to line of sight quickly. It allows you to break the distance on people to allow them to stop beating on you. So we're gonna try and utilize this on our backbar for this build. As far as our front bar, we're going to go with the Lightning Staff of Willpower. Now, there is a flex. You can go with the 2 swords. You can go with the Great Sword, or you can go with the Lightning Staff. I'm not sure which one I'm going to use. Like I said, guys, this is theory crafted. I think this is something that I'm going to have to test pretty thoroughly. I already have the swords. I have a Great Sword. I do not have a Lightning Staff, so I will have to go get one when this comes out of the PTS and test it all out. But as you guys can see, we're only using it for the 2-piece. It adds Max Magicka, and so this is going to give us pretty good Max Magicka on our front bar, which is more damage. This is just our 2-piece on our front bar. So 5 back bar. We're running 2-piece Bloodspawn. Bloodspawn's just great for a Magplar. As you guys all know that play Magplar, when you're in PvP and they see somebody cast Breath of Life or Honor the Dead, you get focused first really quickly. And so I have a hard time getting off of Bloodspawn on a Magplar build because, they want to make sure you're dead. And rightfully so. I mean, you're the healer class. They're going to try and focus you first, so you want to be a little bit more tanky. Bloodspawn is great for that. And then we are going, in the same vein, we are going with Robe of the Swift. And so Swift is very nice. It gives you armor, and then you get 10% flat damage mitigation for the 5-piece, which is fantastic. So all this is really good. It's a good damage mitigation set with another damage mitigation set with a utility set. A lot of you guys are going to say like, hey, where is the damage for this? And the damage is in the combination. And so I'm going to show that to you guys right here. So if we look at our character sheet on our front bar, you see we're at 19,000 Magicka. Okay, sorry. I do not know yet how much recovery I'm going to use. In Elsewhere, I only needed about 1,000, and I could infinitely sustain with Harness Magicka. So I'm just only going... I'm going a little bit over what I normally get. I think I could get by with 1200. I think I could get by with 1000. I just threw 1400 on here just so you guys can get an idea. You know, if you want to add another spell damage enchant, you just look at it and go, okay, well, if I added more spell damage, I would hit harder, you know? I mean, that's pretty common sense. If I want more recovery, I'm going to hit slightly less, you know? So that's how I would look at it. But our stats are, for this, we have 1400 magic recovery. We are a Breton, so 1400 magic recovery with a Breton, with a rune down, a lot of sustain. 42,500 max magica, quite a bit of max magica. 19,000 health, which will jump up to about 25k in PvP, which is pretty good. 17k stamina, which is also really nice. 1,700 spell damage on buff, that goes up to about 2,100 or so. 39% spell crit, which is pretty solid. When we buff up with our resistances on our front bar, we're sitting at 27,000 spell, 20,000 physical, 3,200 crit resist, which is also nice. When our blood spawn goes off, which when we're 1vxing, it'll be basically off a cooldown, we'll be at around 26,000 physical, 33,000 spell on our back bar, on our front bar. On our back bar, we're at 25k physical, 32k spell, so it jumps up to 38k physical, 31k physical. So we have very nice resistances in light armor. Keep in mind, guys, this also doesn't take into account we are also wearing Buffer of the Swift, so we have 10% damage mitigation from that. When we're in our jabs, we also get minor protection, so we have the damage mitigation from that. We are very tanky with this. So, do you need to be this tanky? I don't know. You know, it's possible you could get by with Alfiq. It's possible you could get by with Cyrodiil's Light. I really don't know. This is why this is a theory-crafted build. I'm just going to start with Buffer of the Swift, just so we make sure we're tanky enough. We are wearing the Mage Mundus Stone. We are not a vampire. I do think mag DKs are going to be a little bit stronger next patch for the Dragonhold DLC, and so because there's going to be a few more mag DKs, I would take Vampire off, and so I would do that, and we will be utilizing Race Against Time again. So, on our front bar, guys, we're using Puncturing Sweeps, Toppling Charge, Purifying Light, Dark Flare, and this is our flex. So we can either run Inner Light, we can run Reflective Light, or we can run Elemental Drain. And so it's going to be up to you on what you want to kind of run here. I would probably slot Reflective Light. If you want a little bit more sustain, I'd put Ele Drain. If you want that little bit of extra burst damage, you don't think the dot's doing a whole lot, I would slot Inner Light. So it's going to come down to your preferences. I do think Ele Drain or Reflective Light would be my top two choices. Inner Light gives you... Inner Light is nice, but I think that would be my third choice. Crescent Sweep is the ultimate. If we went with the Great Sword, we could use Onslaught. If we went with the dual wield swords, we would also use Crescent. That's just going to depend on how you want to test it. On our on our back bar, we're running Spell Wall, Harness Magicka. Harness Magicka is going to make us a little bit tankier, so we're going to have a damage shield, and it gives us our movement speed buff. Channeled Focus for our Major Resolve and Major Ward, as well as our recovery. So in total, we have about 2,000 Magicka recovery with this build. Race Against Time. This is going to be our Immobilization and Snare immunity, which we're going to need for literally any patch right now, like everybody's running snares. It also gives us Minor Force for 12 seconds, so when we do crit, our crit damage, we will hit even harder. And so I love using this skill for that reason. On top of that, guys, this also gives us Major Expedition for 4 seconds. So we have Major Expedition with this. We have 20% more movement speed with this. We are now the fastest player in PvP with both of these. And so we can now play a very fast, very kitey Magicka Templar build. And so, one of the cool things of these last few patches is they've gotten rid of some of the archetypes, like Magplar. And this is what I've talked about in previous videos. I don't want to go too much into it, but this is once again one of the points I'm trying to make with you guys. But they've gotten rid of the stand your ground archetype. You can still stand your ground as a Magplar, you can still stand your ground as a Mag DK, but you don't necessarily have to because of Race Against Time and because of Marauder's Haste. So if you want to be a fast character, you can stack both of these and be very, very fast. Race Against Time, this is your Major Expedition. You'll be almost as fast as a medium armor bow build. Stacked with this, you will be faster even before you sprint. And so Very, very nice. On top of that, we're running Honor the Dead. And so as you guys can see, we have a pretty good Honor the Dead heal. And then we have Extended Ritual, Purify, and it's just bread and butter for a Magplar. The Purifying 5 dots is just so valuable. And so, if we go into our CP real quick, guys, not special, like I said, and it still needs to be tested. 51 Warlord, 25 in a Sprinter. I'll talk about that in a little bit. 1 in a Siphoner, 64 Arcanist, 40 in a Tenacity, 66 Shadow Ward. We will be block casting quite a bit, so it does help to have a lot here. 23 in a Tumbling. Occasionally we're going to have to do that. 37 in a Blessed, 51 Elfborn, 64 LA Expert, 46 in a Spell Erosion. So, and 72 in a Master at Arms. Now, Thaumaturge sweeps got changed to where it's now a direct damage ability. And so now instead of it being buffed by Thaumaturge, it's buffed by Master at Arms. And all of this like it always is. So instead of putting points in the Thom and utilizing the Exploiter passive, as I showed in the previous video, we get a little bit more damage if we go this way. And so, as a Magplar, we can then just take the dots off our bar from Scalebreaker, and we can put direct damage attacks like Dark Flare instead. And Dark Flare does a shit ton of damage, and it defiles, and it's also buffed by this. And we can have some really nice synergy with this entire thing. And I will go through the Dark Flare thing here in a minute, because people are going to be confused why I would use such a terrible skill, but I'll explain it here in a minute. 72 in Ironclad, 62 Resistant, 49 Hardy, 43 LA Defender, none in the Thick Skin because we have Purify, 44 in a Bastion to buff our shields. And so, because we're the fastest person out there, we may need to utilize Sprint to get in and out of the battlefield. And so, if all of a sudden a bunch of people pile on us, we could pop. We don't have it on. We don't have it fully buffed yet, but we could pop a shield ult, and we could literally just sprint away. And so I'm pretty confident in saying that if we pop our shield ult and we pop our 2 buffs, nobody's catching us. So you are just very, very fast. Spell Wall allows you to reflect all incoming attacks as well, ranged attacks. And so you pop this, you buff your shield, you buff this, and you're gone. So that's why I was thinking about doing the reduced or the sprint speed for that reason. And so this allows you to be kitey in case like you just can't stand toe-to-toe. I mean, we have a lot of resistances. We have good recovery. We have really good healing. If we need to get out for whatever reason, there must be a bunch of people beating on us. We now have the ability to get out, you know, just like anybody else does. So, yeah. Now, if you guys have been around my channel for a while, you know that I do not use Dark Flare. You know that I typically don't use a lot of channeled abilities because I don't like them. Channeled abilities get you killed. You know, anytime you're in a channel, anytime, you know, something has a cast time, that means there's more time of you getting focused where you have to be tanky in order to absorb damage while you're taking damage, and it gives you an opportunity to get bursted. However, this skill is very, very powerful for a few reasons. Number one, it hits hard. It hits really hard. We aren't running a very high damage spec, but if we buff with our thing here, we have 12,000 for our Dark Flare. On top of that, it hits this person, and anybody within 8 meters of the Dark Flare is hit with Major Defile. Now, as you guys know, they reduced dot damage, but they buffed, they kept the healing the way it was. And so a lot of people are very tanky. Major Defile is going to be valuable. And so Magplars have it in their toolkit. It also grants you an Empower. And so when you, after you use this, your next slide attack does 40% more damage, which, you know, I wouldn't sleep on that. It is actually a really nice burst. And so, yes, I typically don't like doing this because it can be interrupted. You can be interrupted and you can be bashed out of it. And so if you're fighting, like let's say I'm fighting a Mag DK or a Stam, let's say it's a Stam DK, right? And they're in my face. Well, if they're in my face and I try and Dark Flare them, they're going to see me put my hand by my head and they're going to bash me out of it. And now they just set me off balance, and now they're going to knock me down, and they're going to do 10% more damage. And so you have to be careful when you use a channel, because if somebody's in your face, they're just going to bash you out of it if they're smart. However, the reason I think we can use it now is because we have this movement speed. We can now be fast enough to where we can get the distance a little bit, and then we hit them with our Dark Flare. And so will this work on 100% of people? No, not every time, obviously. If you run across that one mag sork that decided they wanted to run Crushing Shock, which you literally never see anymore, like almost nobody's running Crushing Shock. They're either running Force Pulse, or they're running Ellie Weapon, or they're running, Flame Reach. Like there's just so many other spammables outside of Crushing Shock. I can't remember the last time I saw somebody running Crushing Shock. That's the only ranged interrupt in the game that's really useful. And because of the buff to Poison Injection, I don't think people are going to be using Venom Arrow a whole lot either. So you're just not really going to get interrupted on this. And because you're so fast, it allows you to get some distance so you can get this off and, not get interrupted. And so you get this high damage burst ability skill that does have a cast time. And on top of that, guys, as we all know, we are the fastest player in the battlefield. And until they change it, this entire thing is a snare. And so if we have our Purify down, and if we buff up with our movement speed, everybody's going to be slowed, and we can still use this in order to get our Dark Flare off. And so, yes, we're the fastest, but we're also slowing people down. And so once we get a little bit of distance, unless they have a gap closer, it's going to be really hard for them to get on top of us to interrupt us from our Dark Flare. And so what we're going to try and do, guys, on top of that, we also have this other nice snare right there. We're going to hit him with Reflective Light. We're going to hit him with Purifying Light. I'm going to do it one more time, and then we're going to go with our Dark Flare. And when we hit with our Dark Flare and we topple, you see they land at the same time. And so it's a really nice synergy to get the knockdown with the high burst defile thing. And so what we're going to do is we're going to dot him up, which will snare him. We're going to hit this. We're going to come in with a Dark Flare. We're going to topple, Crescent, and now they're taking a bunch of damage. Now they're snared in place. They just took a bunch of burst damage from us. And so we can now be a very mobile class that's using a bunch of direct damage abilities that can get on top of people really quickly and then go in for the finish. And I'm actually really excited to do this type of playstyle for a Magplar, because this has never really been, we've never really had this kind of potential for movement speed. And so in Scale Breaker, it's been a dot you down and, just let dots do the work. In the past, it's been, I'm going to stand here in the rune, and when you jump on me, I'm going to hit you with a bunch of stuff, and then I'm going to jab you and whatever. Or I'm going to go around a corner, and I'm going to catch you in a tight space, and I'm going to jab this area, and I'm going to hit really hard, and I'm going to kill you. Now, we can be fast, we can be mobile, and we can potentially just shit on people at range. And so, I'm not saying it's perfect. Like I said, this is a theory-crafted build. There's a few different things I want to test. Like I said, you could do Lightning Staff. Lightning Staff would buff, your sweeps. It does not buff your Dark Flare. It does not buff your topple. The other thing I do want to try, and the reason I'm going Lightning Staff is because the light attacks do allow me to sustain and build ultimate faster. The other thing that we can do is we put a two-hander on, and we put Onslaught on. You guys already see where I'm going here. But we do the exact same combo, and we do our Dark Flare. We come in, and we slap them with the Onslaught. And so now we have Onslaught Burst plus Purifying Light Burst. And then our jabs, which are now direct damage, are doing, full pen. And so I think this is absolutely an option. I think this is a pretty good option, because you're going to have so much burst. Like, you're going to fill the power of the light, or your Purifying Light, with this combination. If you don't like that and you don't want to use Onslaught, you can use Great Swords. I mean, it's up to you guys. Like I said, I don't know which one's better. I really don't. That's why you have to test it. Or, if you don't want to test it, I'm eventually going to get to it, and I will be running this type of playstyle myself. Yeah, what else was I going to say? Other options. Now, I am using Marauder's Haste here, and Marauder's Haste is a pretty good idea, I think, with Harness Magicka. Like I said, I think the idea of Harness Magicka plus this gives us a lot of movement speed. I would be a very poor theory crafter to not tell you could also potentially use another set like Prisoner's Rags. I think Prisoner's Rags in this situation would also be pretty good. Don't worry about the tooltips. I don't have enchants on this. I just threw it on. But I think Prisoner's Rags also would probably work out pretty well because as you guys see here, max stamina, stamina recovery. Reduce the cost to sprint by 50%. While sprinting, restore 1,000 magicka every second. And so what we can do with this instead, guys, is, you know, if you don't want to run Harness Magicka, you know, you can take Harness Magicka off in this situation, and we can go to Sigic Order, and we could run, I don't know, we can run maybe Meditate, and we could throw this on our bar, and or, you know, we could slot Entropy here and get our Major Sorcery buff, you know, whatever you want to do. And so with Prisoner's Rags, as you guys can see, reduce the cost of sprint by 50%, while sprinting, restore 1,000 magicka every second. And so we have a bunch of stamina recovery with this set, and we know we have max stamina. This 50% reduction is actually kind of insane. And so if you guys have seen stuff on Prisoner's Rags, we really don't run out of magicka or stamina while we're sprinting. And so I'm sprinting, and you see my stamina is like barely going down, but my magic is going up. And so I'm gonna drain all my magicka here. But literally this turns out to 2,000 magicka recovery. And so if we have to kite, for whatever reason, we can utilize, you know, the same type of thing where we did before, where we pop our shield ulti, we use this, and we sprint. And while we're sprinting, our magic is coming back up. This allows us to run more enchants and potentially more damage than Marauder's Haste. And we're not going to be as fast. You know, we're just not. But I don't know if that's necessarily, you know, a bad thing. I don't know if you need to be that fast. So you can do that to try and get away or get around a corner. You pop your Meditate, and now when they finally come in, you're at full resources and you can fight some more. And then you hit them with your combo. I do think that Marauder's Haste will be better, but as always, guys, you know, when I'm trying to set up a build, I have an idea that I want to try first, and then I have my backup idea that I try second, just to check, you know. So if I'm really set on Crafty Alfiq, I always have a backup set. And so even though I like to build, even though I like Crafty Alfiq, I'm like, you know what? Well, maybe I'm going to try New Moon Acolyte. Let's just see how New Moon Acolyte goes. I don't think it's going to be as good, but I'm going to try it just to make sure I've tested it. And then it either confirms it, or all of a sudden New Moon Acolyte's better. I'm like, holy shit, I'm going to run New Moon Acolyte. It's awesome. You know, having that backup set I think is a good idea. And so my backup set for Marauder's Haste would be Prisoner's Rags. My backup set for Robe of the Swift would be Cyrodiil's Light. I think Cyrodiil's Light fits in very well here because, you know, Toppling Charge is a channel, our Sweeps is a channel. If we had Meditate on our back bar, that would also be a channel, so Cyrodiil's Light would work very well here. It would give us a little bit more damage than Buffer of the Swift would. And so there are some nice combinations. So I'm really excited. I'm honestly like pretty excited about, you know, this type of playstyle. It's more of a direct damage burst playstyle instead of a slow clunky one. I hope it works. You know, as always, guys, like I said for the 6th time now, it's not tested. I don't know how good it's going to be, but it looks like fun. It looks like fun to be this fast and then get in, hit really hard, kill something, get out. You know, focus on the next guy. And now you can be tanky. Now, you know, this type of Magplar build has kind of the full package. You know, it's on paper. It's tanky, it has good sustain, it has high mobility, it has great healing, and it has good burst damage. Looks like a lot of fun. So let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching, guys. Have a nice day.